Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Pop Talks, the official podcast of JPM Comics in Glendora, California. I am your co-host, Andy Foreman.
And I'm Jason Cox.
And today we have decided to discuss the DCEU with the recent release of Justice League. It's been a topic that's been on everybody's minds. Well, I wouldn't say everybody's minds. I think there's more important things going on in the world.
It's statistically fewer people than are thinking about, Bitcoin.
Okay. But it's been on some people's minds.
Yeah.
Okay. But keep in mind, this is not going to be a review of it. One, because Jason hasn't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Two, because I have nothing to say about it. If you want to know my thoughts on it, it's fine. I was entertained by it, but it's a mess, and we deserve better.
Yeah, I think you put together a blank tweet the other day. That was your review, right?
Yeah, it was just a face. It was just my face going. Is just.
Or I feel like that sound is even more emphatic than your actual review of it. That's that actually connotes a feeling or thought about it.
I enjoyed it though, but
yeah.
That's, and it's because of the fact that I am a DC fan going about the first Justice League movie that we decided to discuss the DCEU and talk about maybe why it's not working. I know there are some people that like it, but if you do, you're wrong. I'm just kidding. But there's way more people that should like it. Am I right?
Well, yeah.
There should be more people that like this than there are.
Are you asking me, should they have made a Justice League movie that everyone likes?
Well,
because
the
answer to that is yes.
It's like the Star Wars prequels. Yeah, there are people that like, there's some secret metaphors in Attack the Clones that really elevate it. But the fact that people don't like it is a problem already.
They just made a movie that people don't. They made several movies
that
people don't like, that general audiences don't like. That's considered in movie terms a failure.
Yes, I mean, $1 billion is probably pretty good, but
yeah.
But overall, it was a critical failure, and that's pretty much how you could sum up 75% of the DCEU.
They rolled a 1.
Yes, exactly. I mean, Wonder Woman was great, but we were thinking about, we would talk about why it's maybe not working as well as it should, what we would do to fix it, and what we would want to see from it. But before we get into that, we just kind of want to run down our thoughts on the movies that have come out so far.
Yeah.
So, first off, 2013, Man of Steel. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Do you not care? Are you
I mean, there are things about Man of Steel that I like. There's just more things about it that I don't like. So, I mean, if I had to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, it'd probably be a thumbs down. But like I said, there are things about it that I liked. I especially liked the opening sequence, which was pretty lengthy, where it's all set on Krypton. I like the aesthetic of Krypton. Obviously, there was loads and loads of visual effects in that movie overall, and I think they spent a good amount of it working on that. But they did their research on Krypton itself. I feel like probably the general public doesn't know a whole lot of Krypton and life on Krypton or anything like that. You've seen the original Superman movies, and you know that they wore white glowing gowns or whatever. That's whether that's true or not isn't really relevant. But it was
they established a world.
Yeah, it was pretty accurate to some of the depictions that they've had of Krypton in the books. So, but yeah, I mean, that was kind of mostly it. I thought the Krypton parts were kind of fun, and then overall the rest of it, I was I had some pretty significant problems with it, which I think are probably common problems that I think a lot of people had with it.
You really don't like Pa Kent getting sucked into a tornado?
I mean, that's fine if Superman is dead
or trying to do something.
Yeah, if Clark Kent, Kal-El isn't there to witness his dad get killed, that I could even understand. Sure, that's fine, but I mean, if you've seen Smallville, Clark can sneak away from just about any situation so that he can go do super things. And yeah, it's kind of outrageous to me that that's how he dies. And him dying of, natural causes, a heart attack or something like that. That makes sense too. Superman's not a super doctor. He's just a Superman.
But that's also an important lesson for Superman to learn that he doesn't learn in Man of Steel. Is that he can't save everyone all the time, even though he can lift,
a school bus full of children.
A cruise ship with his bare hands.
Yeah.
He can't.
Oh, but his dad taught him that lesson before he died. Remember when he was a kid? He says, what was I supposed to do? Not save them? And his dad's like, I don't know.
Well, his dad goes well, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, that's not, a great setup.
Right,
It's
yeah.
not-
Seriously, it
that's-
sounds like a line that falls flat. It's a very human moment.
Yeah.
And I would imagine a very, like, realistic, like, parenting moment.
Yeah.
Like, parents don't have the answers to all your questions when you're a kid. They want to, and they love to have, like, great Pa Kent-esque advice or whatever. Like, they want to have an Andy Griffith moment with
But-
you, but they can't.
But I'm not asking for Andy Griffith from Man of Steel.
Yeah.
What I'm asking for is there's that line in Superman the movie, and look, I get it. You can't constantly go back to Superman the movie, except that movie is perfect. Except that movie does it perfectly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a reason people keep comparing Spider-Man to the Sam Raimi movies. They go back and they're like, well, these did these better because
yeah.
if you do it better,
Yeah.
it's constantly going to be compared. It's fair to compare a reboot to the previous version
Yeah.
because you're going over the same source material. And they have that great moment where Pa Kent is like, well, no, you're not going to play football. Like, that's not your calling. And and that's enough. That's all you need. You know what I mean? You don't need some long diatribe about gods and men.
Yeah,
and,
it doesn't have to get all philosophical or anything like that.
Yeah, it's a very human moment. And it kind of sets up the rest of that movie. But Man of Steel, yeah, there's some like fundamental flaws in that movie that I think have kind of have been a detriment to the series as it has gone on. And the thing is, I sound like I'm shitting all over this movie. I love Man of Steel.
Yeah,
I think it's really good.
Even you were shitting all over it.
Well, there's some problems with it,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think it's a holdover from the Nolan trilogy, which is already a problem. I mean, I love the Nolan trilogy, but that is its own thing.
Right.
It's
Right.
a Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, and you can't just take, you can't take that cinematography and that type of score and then just throw it onto Superman or throw it onto the Flash or Green Lantern. And expect it to work for everything.
Well, right, yeah, in the same way that it wouldn't have worked for, Tim Burton did some Batman movies. You don't have the next guy be like, okay, so make it like the Tim Burton Batman movies. It's like, no, I'm Joel Schumacher. I want bat nipples and
and that's exactly how it works.
Yeah. So and that's
for better or worse, but at least you can't just copy it.
Yeah, I think that's overall how superhero movies were treated for a lot of those classic ones. Yeah, because the Batman and Batman Returns, those are Tim Burton's Batmans. Those aren't like him trying to make the best Batman. Well, I mean, it is him trying to make the best Batman movie he can, but it's all about like it's the Tim Burton Batman. It's not Batman and Tim Burton just made it. It's like it's Tim Burton's Batman. Joel Schumacher's Batman movies, those are Joel Schumacher Batman, and Christopher Nolan as well.
And
like that's his take on Batman.
Movies, but you have to take the good with the bad.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because if you take a look at like the Amazing Spider-Man series, which I constantly go back to, but those aren't Mark Webb movies. I mean, look, I have no idea how. We're two schmucks who have no clue about the filmmaking process or the studio process, so I don't want to insult the guy by saying those aren't Mark Webb films.
Sure,
but when you watch the end product, they look like something that just came off a conveyor belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's honestly the worst thing to me. So that's why I don't really have a problem with Man of Steel as much as I do with something like The Amazing Spider-Man, which while The Amazing Spider-Man people will be like, well, that's better than Man of Steel. But at least Man of Steel is like a Zack Snyder movie.
Right, well, but I would probably say that a lot of people that would say that it's a better movie, that's probably why they like it better, is because it's like it came off a conveyor belt, and that's what a lot of movie studios and studio executives want, is something that it's high concept, it's familiar, you can just settle into it, you don't need to know anything, any backstory or anything like that, and also it's not overly influenced by any one creative person that's involved with it, like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, but it's like you're just buying a product off, and I know this is all product,
right,
but there are people behind it who care. This was like this was a thing that came out about the DCU. Like, I hate calling it the DCEU because it's such a dumb name.
I hate that you call it that too.
I'll stop calling it that.
We'll call them DC movies, man.
This is the thing about
Marvel movies.
This is the thing about DC films that came out a couple years ago. This was like right after Batman v Superman came out or something, where it said they want to keep constantly building this universe, but it's to a detriment of the people who actually care about the product that's being made.
Oh yeah.
And people can shit on Zack Snyder all they want, but one thing I respect about the guy is that he goes in and makes a movie that he wants to make.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, whether it works out or not is up for the viewer to decide.
Yeah.
I would say for the most part it hasn't worked out because I think he's been and I know this is going against everything I just said, but he's been given too much free reign.
Oh yeah.
But
well, I mean,
I just completely contradicted myself.
I don't know if you necessarily contradicted yourself, because what you're saying is that like there's you see more value in something that is particular, like a director or writer's vision.
Yeah.
And yeah, Zack Snyder has a vision. He's able to execute that vision. That is valuable.
Mhm.
But whether or not it's like enjoyable to you or to general audiences, there's a difference there. So yeah, you can respect the fact that he executed the movie that he wanted to make, but it's not necessarily a movie that you want to watch.
And the thing about Man of Steel is, I feel like that is one of the more representative superhero movies of this sort of superhero genre that we're in. I'm not saying it's like a defining movie, but I would say it's a great example of like what was going on at the time. I mean, it was only 4 years ago, but still a lot has changed.
Yeah. We were in a pre-Avengers world.
No, we were in a post-Avengers world.
Oh,
right,
shit, you're right.
2013.
Yeah, duh.
We were in a pre-Age of Ultron world.
Blech.
We were so different back then. We were so different before that movie.
Yeah, okay.
I'll give you this. We were in a pre-Star Wars The Force Awakens world, where everybody just wants, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my point is, it's clearly a reflection of three things. It's a reflection of Superman Returns, which everybody thought was super friggin' boring.
I like things about it too.
I like it too.
I mean, honestly, I probably like it about as much as I like Man of Steel.
I mean, they both have their pros and cons.
Totally,
but I think
yeah,
both of them are. They're both that filmmaker's interpretation of Superman, which I can respect. You know, even though I have problems with both of them.
Yeah.
But it's clearly a reaction to Superman Returns, which everybody thought was super boring, even though it's not that boring. It's fine.
It's got Parker Posey in it.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
That plane catch is great.
Yeah.
And
great homage too. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also a response to the Avengers, which is, and I'm not saying this in an insulting way, but is like 90% action. Like the last 40 minutes of that movie are just a city being destroyed, and it's awesome. It's awesome. You love
especially if you love disaster porn, then yeah.
But it's great. It's a great movie. And it's also a response to the Dark Knight trilogy, which is really the only modern DC adaptation that has actually worked out.
Yeah.
So they tried to combine all this shit into Man of Steel, and for me, it works because at least it's like a coherent narrative. At least it like tells a story, and people are like, "Oh, well, it jumps around." I'm like, "Yeah, because so did Batman Begins.
Yeah,
like, it's
right.
fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter." It's not like he's a teenager, and then there's him when he's 23, and then him when he's 24, and then 25.
If you could track with Batman Begins, you can track with Man of Steel.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like you need
he's a kid
instruction
or he's an
manual on
adult.
how to read it or how to watch it.
Yeah, there's either him when he's 10 or him when he's 25.
Yeah.
It's not hard, you know what I mean, to figure this out.
Who's that? Oh, that's Clark Kent.
That's him.
Why is he a little boy? What movie are you watching?
Oh, you mean the kid that can see through people's skin is Superman? This is okay. So
who's Clark? I thought we were watching Superman.
The sad thing is that's probably more right than we realize.
Yeah.
I once had somebody ask me if Man of Steel was an Iron Man 3 was the next Iron Man movie, because Iron Man 3 came out like a month before. And they're like, "Oh, is this a new Iron Man movie or a spinoff or something?" And I'm like, I was like, "Oh."
And you said yes, right?
I mean, I pretty much just walked away.
I mean, maybe that's how it made as much money as it did anyways, is that people just assumed that it was another Iron Man movie or
they
thought
Robert Downey Jr. would show up.
Yeah.
They thought Ben Kingsley's the Mandarin would show up at some point in the movie. That's everybody's favorite character.
So many people walked out of that movie just like, well, I'm just disappointed that happy fella wasn't in there. I mean, that movie could have used some happy.
Yeah, where's Jon Favreau? But I think we can agree that on Man of Steel, there is nothing that this universe couldn't come back from. There's a lot of problems in it that have been a detriment through all of it. But when people are like, "Oh, well, they should just reboot again," I was like, screw that. Like, it's such a dumb idea. I mean, there's nothing that you couldn't have come back from.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they did not come back from it.
Right. Well, I think the solution that they went with, instead of rebooting again, which is not, I don't think, a viable option for them. You can't just reboot again already.
It's not ideal.
Yeah, it's not going to work for them. This isn't Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So the solution that they appear to be going with is like not relying on having a cohesive, ongoing
narrative.
Yeah. Which I think makes total sense. I love. It maybe isn't going to make them as many dollars, because it's like, wait, I can see, the Flash movie, and I don't need to see every DC movie that came before it to understand what's going on in it. It's not like one ongoing story.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it maybe won't sell as many tickets, but I find that appealing. I mean, in the same way that I find a done-in-one, like a one-shot comic appealing. It's like, oh, cool, I can just read this.
It tells its story.
Yeah.
But they tried to come back from it, and they didn't with Batman v Superman, which is everybody's favorite movie.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that anyone that has seen it just raves about it.
That
constantly.
That movie to me is like, when I saw that, I was scared that I was not a comic book fan anymore because I came out of it so miserable and so irritated and so disappointed, and I was like, did I just become like an old man like overnight? You know what I mean?
There are some old men that even like comic books, though.
No, I'm just saying, like, did I just become the grouchy old guy overnight? Because it's basically like, if you like Man of Steel, there's no reason you shouldn't like Batman v Superman, because it's like the same shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's basically the same shit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, what the hell, man? You like Man of Steel. Why didn't you like BVS?
I will get... First off, Man of Steel didn't have Jesse Eisenberg flapping his arms around, acting like he was intimidating.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, God. That's... we don't have enough memory or battery on this laptop to get through all of Jesse Eisenberg's problems as Lex Luthor. And I defended him when he was cast too.
I would still defend him as an actor.
Yeah.
He's not the one who wrote the movie. He
Exactly.
didn't decide to go with that characterization of Lex Luthor. I think that what they told him to do is exactly what he did, and he did a great job at doing that. It's just that
is embarrassing.
Was hot garbage.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
It's a disappointment to anybody who likes Lex Luthor even a little bit.
But they have, at least in like Man of Steel, and I know people are like, there's too much fighting, but at least you could like tell what's going on.
Yeah.
During all the fights in there.
Mm-hmm.
Batman v Superman is just all CGI fire and smoke, and you can't. Like, you don't know what's going on for most of it. Most of it is chopped to hell, which I think is a huge problem with these movies already. Yeah. But
it's no John Wick.
Good comparison.
I mean, yeah. I'm strictly speaking about like the editing style. You know,
okay.
Like, where a lot of movies are like Jason Bourne, where like for 10 seconds you get 9 different angles on a shot because they cut it all funny for like stunt doubles and fight choreography and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
it's no Quantum of Solace. You're saying? That's what they do in that movie.
I've seen it. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, and nobody knows what's going on in that entire movie because it's cut so terribly.
Yeah,
but I don't even mean like the visual editing is the problem. I mean like the story editing is the problem. Like there's because Lois Lane is talking to some guy in a bathroom about a bullet from Superman, but why would Superman need bullets if he's Superman?
Yeah,
like what's the point? And then they just stop for no reason for a okay-ish desert sequence, but that it makes no sense.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And people go, anybody that defends these movies, they go like, well, what about an Age of Ultron where Tony Stark has the nightmare about all the Avengers being dead? I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't great either, but at least...
I'll also go on record as saying that Age of Ultron wasn't all that, so...
No, Age of Ultron wasn't all that great, but at least in Age of Ultron, it was like, I don't remember what movie it was, but it was like the end of Phase 2. It wasn't like the second movie of this franchise,
right?
And you have no idea. And also, I'm not an Age of Ultron defender, but it wasn't as ham-fisted as the Flash coming out of a fucking computer and going like, "Oh, you need to stop the book." Like, it doesn't work. I mean, here's the thing: if that had been Grant Gustin's Flash, at least there would have been some context for it. You know what I mean? At least something would have been set up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is the first time you're seeing the Flash, and he's jumping out of a computer, going like, "Oh, what's going on? You gotta stop the book." And first off, nobody gives a shit about injustice in a movie. Because people are like, oh, well, it's going to be like Injustice, where he's like a ruler and a demigod. You know?
Yeah, I think you may be mistaken about that, though, because I'm pretty sure that everybody that likes Injustice wants to see Injustice made into a movie.
I know, but they want to see that until they actually see it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
well, guess what? You got what you wanted. It was a mistake.
Yeah, it was put on screen for about 10 minutes in that movie, and it was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And I don't know why they're trying to set up all this Elseworld shit before they're even doing one main
before
universe.
They've done a world.
Yeah, before they've done
Reg World.
Before they've done an actual world.
Original recipe world.
Yeah. And see, the fact that I'm even getting this worked up about it a year and a half later shows how many problems there are with this movie.
Yeah.
Like, killing Superman is one of the... I'm going to move on, but killing Superman is one of the dumbest narrative decisions you could have possibly made for this movie. Okay? You know why? Because if it was like the Nolan trilogy and like they did Superman Doomsday and he like died at the end of like the second one, but it was like meant to be like a 3-act structure. Like it was meant to be a trilogy.
Right, yeah.
That's different. This is like the second episode of your show, basically, and you're killing off one of the main characters. And yes, I know they're gonna bring him back in Justice League.
Right, of course, it's really obvious.
But it's still stupid.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds a lot like Zack Snyder was just like, I know what I'm gonna do in Batman v Superman. I'm gonna kill Superman. It's like you're a genius, like he's a genius or something.
Yeah, like, oh, that's... Also, it shows, like, the death of Superman, when people go to that as like the defining Superman story, I kind of question if they've really read a lot of Superman, because not that it's a bad story, but the fact that you're like, oh yeah, we should totally do the death of Superman.
Yeah, right.
Like, why?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Also,
what for? What's he gonna do?
There's no attachment to the character. Yet nobody cares about, especially in Batman v Superman. Just like as a film as a whole, it doesn't stand on its own because you know nothing about Superman.
Yeah.
Besides, he likes to get in the bathtub with Amy Adams,
Yeah.
and he looks really sad.
I mean,
like
who doesn't?
Uh, Evidently Henry Cavill, because he looks fucking bored through the entire movie and miserable.
But by the time they kill Superman towards the end of Batman v Superman, I mean, we've seen 9 hours of Superman between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, right? Because
but
those movies are like 11 hours long each, right?
But you're not connected to him at all. Like, there's no character moments at all. And I mean, I would argue that there are character moments in Man of Steel, but there's none in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
There's none in there. A building blows up and he looks like he's having a sad shower.
Yeah.
like with the remember that where the Capitol blows up and there's fire going and he's like, oh, this sucks.
He is having a sad shower in other people's body parts and organs.
And the fact that that's like in a Superman movie, I won't like protest it because done right it could be fine. But the fact that it was so like haphazardly handled, is ridiculous to me. Like they should have looked at that and just gone, oh, this is not working. But
well, if by they you mean audiences, then they did. But unfortunately, the people that made the movie didn't. If you meant they, the executives and creators.
I don't know. Have you seen the extended cut? It explains it all. It's so much better.
Is that what it does? Because
no, you get to see a man get knifed in prison. That's what you get to see.
Okay.
I mean,
that really ties it all together for me. I was wondering, why isn't there a guy getting stabbed in prison for most of that movie?
Because that's what you think about when you're watching a Batman Superman.
Yeah, it's like there's a gaping plot hole and it's knife shaped, and I don't know. There's something about it that's missing.
But when people defend these movies, they love to defend them on the grounds that like they're somehow smarter. No, they're not.
Well, that's a common go-to. Is like, you know, like,
don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, Napoleon Dynamite. I didn't really like it that much. Oh, you just don't get the comedy.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Which may be true. I mean, I'm not saying that that's entirely illegitimate. I'm saying that
don't shit on Napoleon Dynamite. Just stay on DC right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I want to say, I mean, whatever. You love it or you hate it or whatever, but it's a very distinct style of comedy, that one in particular. So, yeah, if it's not your brand of comedy, if it's not, if you're into Paul Blart, you're probably not going to like Napoleon Dynamite as much.
But this movie, I'm watching it, they try and go like, oh, it's so elevated, it's so much smarter or whatever, because Batman talks about how you're not a god, and you're a god, and men are brave, but while yes, those themes are in this movie, if they're not handled well, then the movie is not smart. You know what I mean?
And that's one of the biggest things, I would say one of the big distinguishing factors between DC and Marvel, not just their movies, but their comics and their properties and the way that they treat heroes and stuff like that, is that you've got, like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. These are like, I mean, Batman's a mortal man, but he's not super mortal. Like, he's the apex of humanity.
He's a god.
Yeah,
he's like an
exactly.
Icon.
Yeah, he's the closest
he can stand among gods and be considered a god.
He's the closest thing to a god that a man can be.
Yeah.
And then you've got Superman, who's just straight up godlike. Wonder Woman, straight up godlike. Like
even
so.
Aquaman and the Flash, like. I always say this, and this is not a Marvel versus DC thing, but any one member of the Justice League could kill all the Avengers. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's a lot of... Do you know how many Marvel characters are Avengers? Like...
No, I'm aware.
I'm pretty sure that more than 50% of the Marvel Universe has been an Avenger or is currently an Avenger.
Okay, well, if they all dogpiled on them, then maybe.
Right, they might actually just crush them, like suffocate them and crush their lungs.
But you understand my point, though, that they treat... The way they go about the stories is much different, and that's fine if you want to explore that. I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy explores all these heavy themes and stuff, and it works.
Like you said, if it's handled properly, it can be really great. Yeah. But if it's not handled properly, it's mishandled.
I mean, when you try and like set up 4 other superheroes in a movie where you're already resetting up another, and trying to continue to set up one. And that's why when this movie was coming out, people were like, oh, why are they doing a Batman-Superman movie? They should do a Batman solo movie first. I'm like, well, I don't think that's really true because everybody knows who Batman is. So it's fine if they do this.
Which I am loving that we're having so many fewer origin stories in superhero movies. It's like, okay, I get if it's Ant-Man or if it's Doctor Strange, if it's someone who's relatively unknown.
Well, I mean, not that she's unknown, but she's never had her story told.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we've had it done before, we don't need an origin. Like every time they reboot Spider-Man, we don't need an origin for him. If even tiny babies know who Spider-Man is.
Mhm.
Like if you know Peter Parker, radioactive spider, blah blah blah, you're all caught up. You don't need to know any more than that. No extensive research necessary for that.
Exactly. But the problem with that movie that I think that was supposed to set up everything, and it shouldn't have set up everything. You know,
Yeah.
it shouldn't. That shouldn't be its job is to set up anything.
Right. Yeah.
Like I would have been fine with it just a really good Batman versus Superman movie.
Sure.
And
yeah.
this is not. And this is not me having a problem with Gal Gadot or the character Wonder Woman or anything like that.
Yeah.
But she shouldn't even be in that movie. Like you have Batman and Superman
Yeah.
in a movie for the first time ever.
Yeah. But you've also got Flash and Cyborg
jumping out of a fucking computer
Yeah.
and then being underwater and
Yeah,
stabbing a submarine.
A really weird little YouTube clip that Batman stumbles across.
So that movie, I think, exposed all the problems that were going on behind the scenes. Because there's no way they can cover that up.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? There's no way they can, like... You can't watch that movie and interpret it as, like, a coherent film and look at it. You can't seriously go look at that movie and go, like, yeah, this is as good as it can be.
Right, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and I'm not saying it has to be perfect, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of problems with that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for improvement in that movie.
And then, of course, next comes Suicide Squad, which is all those problems, but, like, multiplied, because that movie makes no sense. It's not entertaining in any way. Well, I wouldn't say it's not entertaining in any way, because it is a fun train wreck.
Yeah, exactly. It's an entertaining movie if that's all. Like, if you go to movies for, like, mental chewing gum, then, yeah, it's a great movie. You know? Like, it's not something that you're going to sit there and analyze and figure out all the plot, structure, and narrative and stuff like that. That's not what it's meant to do.
Mhm.
It's meant to have Will Smith as Deadshot, and...
Yeah, but the problem with that movie is it's so embarrassing. So much of that movie is embarrassing, because there is nothing to it.
Right, which is what I'm saying is, like, it's mental chewing gum. It's not actually going to have any nutritional value for you. You're just burning calories by chewing it.
I don't mean it needs to, like, address heavy themes or anything like that. But I mean, when I say it's nothing, it has no goal. It has no story it wants to tell. It literally just wants to set up spin-offs.
Well, I mean, yeah, the goal is to show off that they can get high caliber actors like Will Smith and Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
And
but you watch it and you don't even. I mean, you understand what's going on, but you don't understand why anything's going on. It's just like, and there's so many, like, embarrassing moments in it where, like, just people are. I know I've used this word a lot, but they're just embarrassing themselves in front of the camera because they're.
Would you say it's an embarrassment? It's a.
I don't know. Let me think about it.
I don't know. I feel. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you because I don't particularly like Suicide Squad, but I can understand people that did like it, because if you're into that kind of thing where you don't have to think, there's explosions and gunfights and corny jokes and Margot Robbie changing clothes, like, that's all appealing to a certain audience. Like, a lot of those people are also going to enjoy the Fast and Furious movies, which I love the hell out of. Those movies are so fun to watch. I don't think once while I'm watching those movies. It's just fun to see what happens next. But
when that movie came out, it was kind of depressing to go, is this all it's going to aspire to be?
Sure,
And also, here's the thing. I think you could say that same thing for Deadpool, which that's not meant to be deep or...
No,
but it's an entertaining movie, and it has a... And I don't want to keep sounding like some, like, snooty film critic, but it, like, has a goal to it. Like, we're going to tell this story. You know? And it has a tone, and it feels like people made it. Like, it doesn't feel like you're watching a rough cut that was never meant to see the light of day.
Totally,
Because there's, like, scenes in there where, like, the Joker will offer up Harley Quinn as, like, a sex slave, and then when somebody turns him down, he gets mad and kills him. And then that has no effect on the plot whatsoever, and you're like, what is this?
On the what?
Yeah, you're like...
There wasn't a plot.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
You're expecting too much already.
I know, but the depressing thing is like, these... We're not watching these movies consecutively. Batman v Superman came out in March, and Suicide Squad came out in August, and then the next movie wasn't coming out until June, which was Wonder Woman. So when you sit down and you've had to stew over Batman v Superman since March, and you sit down and watch this, you go like, oh shit, this is all they're gonna be. You know what I mean? It's a little, because you haven't seen anything from Wonder Woman, so it's not like you're going like, well, at least Wonder Woman is coming out. You know what I mean? You're like, oh god, is Wonder Woman gonna suck this bad too?
Well, and that's the thing that I found. That I kind of enjoy that DC is doing is, like, they're playing catch up with Marvel. Marvel's had all this time, like, they're almost 10 years behind Marvel as far as, like, making a bunch of movies and having them be hits and them be, building a cohesive universe or anything like that. All that stuff, they're way behind on that, so they have to figure out their own strategy and stuff. One thing that I can say that I like about Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman is that they're trying to find like niches within the superhero movie catalog that haven't been done yet. So female lead superhero movie that hadn't been done yet. A movie,
Supervillain.
yeah, supervillain or anti-hero is, I guess, technically where we land with those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I admire the idea of the movies that I'm guessing that they went into these movies with the intention of making is like, oh yeah, let's make a movie where it's like it's not. Well, yeah, and that's another thing too is that I find most of the Marvel movies have pretty flat villains. Like there's not a whole lot to most of the villains.
That's a common complaint.
Yeah,
in most of these things.
So I think the fact that they decided that they're like, oh, people say this. I mean, I don't know if this is what they did, but if they were like, oh, Marvel, people are saying that in the Marvel movies the villains aren't very well fleshed out. Let's make a movie that's all villains. Like I can understand where that idea might come from and why it would sound good. Obviously, the execution didn't work out very well, but I think it was, I like where they were coming from potentially.
You know what is funny though is that the 2 DC movies that came out this year have like the flattest villains of all time. Like, because you've seen Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
The villain sucks.
Yeah.
The villain is horrible.
I mean, I like Mark Gatiss, but I don't like the character he was playing.
It's just a big gray guy with CGI smoke and fire again. And I'm not criticizing Wonder Woman. Like, I actually did enjoy that movie. I think it's a good movie. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, like, and then Steppenwolf, obviously. I know you haven't seen the movie, but it's just, like, it's like...
Steppenwolf is in it? Oh, man!
Oh, that's good. You know he's Darkseid.
I don't have the internet, so I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, he's related to Darkseid. That means we're going to see Darkseid. If only this movie makes some money.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I think the problem that's dogged a lot of these movies is that they kind of forget what they want to be.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, you were saying, like, oh, let's do a movie about supervillains.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
That would be interesting if you were watching a movie about supervillains trying to work together.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're not.
Yeah.
You're watching a movie with a bunch of actors in a bunch of costumes who have signed a contract and are trying to get a spin-off.
Right, yeah, well, and it also falls into the same tropes that so many other movies have. A ragtag group of misfits trying to execute, trying to resolve their differences so that they can achieve some common goal. Like, yeah, it's really, really basic, cinematic storytelling and not done with any particular style or innovation or novelty. It's just, we haven't seen these actors all walk in a line while there's an explosion behind them, so let's do that.
We haven't seen Will Smith with a gun firing at... but in this one, he's firing at a big crocodile man.
And he's got a red glowing eye.
Yeah, he's the coolest part of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. He's the coolest part of that movie. That's the one spinoff I actually would want to see out of that.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Deadshot. Mm-hmm. But then we move on to Wonder Woman. Are we done with Suicide Squad? Because I really can't.
Yeah. I think we're done.
I can't think about it
pretty
anymore.
Sure we're done.
Really, it's
so over it. I'm over it.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed. But
did you decide if it's an embarrassment or not?
I'll get back to me at the end of the episode.
Right.
But
stay tuned.
We move on to Wonder Woman, which is actually a movie.
Yeah.
That feels like it's made by people.
They know how to do these.
That has a character in it that you want to follow. Mm. How the hell did this happen?
Yeah, right.
I'll tell. They probably left her alone. They probably left Patty Jenkins alone for the most part. Mm-hmm, I'm sure there were studio notes, and they're like,
of course, yeah.
Like, well, you can't have this and that. Like, it's anybody who talks about these superhero movies where they're like, well, let the filmmaker do what they want, and it's like, well, you're not ever going to let a filmmaker do what they completely want when it costs hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right. Yeah.
But what you have to do is you have to trust the filmmaker to take the resources that you have given them and take the parameters that you have given them. And make a movie within that. That's why sort of like, and not to get off on a tangent, but like Josh Trank in the Fantastic Four. Look, whether you think a Cronenberg-esque Fantastic Four movie is a good idea or not, I would have rather seen that done 100% than them abandon that idea 50% of the way through and then just do a shitty Avengers knockoff that they shot obviously a month before the movie came out. You know what I mean? That's one of those things where it's like, when the studios make these movies, yes, it's their movie. I get it. They're the ones putting up all these hundreds of millions of dollars and putting their product on the line. But when you agree on certain sets of parameters and certain goals for the film, let them work on that.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it shows ineptitude on the part of the executives that hired these people, that they hired someone that they don't feel that they can trust to do the job the way that they expect it to be done. Like, why are you hiring someone if you don't feel safe leaving them alone for 5 minutes to actually film the movie that you hired them to, that you're paying them lots of money to film? Yeah, like, just leave them alone, let them do it, and if they do it wrong, fire them and get somebody who can do it. But like, just the fact that they got hired on should be enough of a statement that, like, yes, we believe in this person's work. But yeah, so that's presumably what happened, is that she was allowed to do her work.
Yeah, and it shows. Like, it's a coherent movie.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go out and say it's, like, the greatest superhero movie ever. I'd put it on the same level as, like, Doctor Strange, where I was like, yeah, I was entertained by it.
Yeah. It's the best superhero movie with a female lead.
I'm partial to Barbed Wire, but...
Ugh.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, we all know why.
You mean because I was born in the 90s?
No, that's not what I meant.
I don't know.
I mean, because we also saw Supergirl with Helen Slater, and...
that's a great movie.
I mean...
I don't care what anybody says. It's the most entertaining Supergirl movie they could have made at the time. Because it's so bad.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's like a Corman Fantastic Four.
Yeah, it's like you said about Suicide Squad, where it's a really entertaining train wreck to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I also like it, but I also am a huge Supergirl fan, so.
Yeah. But I just want everybody listening to know that I did like Wonder Woman. I'm not trying to shit on it.
No,
I'm just saying it's a good superhero movie.
Yeah.
Which, after Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, is all we needed.
Right, yeah.
That's all we needed.
Unfortunately, saying that it's better than Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad is really saying nothing at all.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a testament to how good it is. Wonder Woman's a good movie.
But I think it's a nice indicator of what could be coming, because people go
Yeah.
like, oh, well, Wonder Woman was good, but then Justice League sucked, so obviously they're going down that. It's like, you do realize that they were shooting at the same time.
Right, yeah,
like,
exactly.
These were being made at the same time. I think Wonder Woman is a good indicator for what could be coming. Like
Yeah,
James
yeah.
Wan's Aquaman, or
Right.
David F. Sandberg doing Shazam, or
Yeah.
Patty Jenkins doing Wonder Woman 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like Justice League gets a pass just because, yeah, like you said, they were making these movies at the same time, and Wonder Woman was a huge hit. So now they know what a hit looks like. So they need to make more movies that look something like that feel something like that. So yeah, Justice League, for me at least, gets a pass as far as the quality. Like, obviously, I'm not going to go in there with very high expectations. I never was, even before it came out. It's like, I know who worked on this movie. I know what I'm getting into. I have an idea of what I should realistically expect. So yeah, I'm not going to expect a movie that's better than Wonder Woman when it just, like, it came out right after it. That's not plausible.
No time. There's no time to fix this, especially, and I don't want to get into because everybody knows the story about what happened behind the scenes with Justice League, but
and if you don't Bing it,
yeah, like Peter Parker in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Did he Bing things in that movie?
Yeah, he uses Bing, and then everybody made fun of it. And in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, he uses Google.
Oh, he should have Binged stuff too, and then it should have, like, not worked or something. His computer explodes.
So if you're Binging this, Bing in The Amazing Spider-Man, and then Bing this.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Wait, is that what I'm saying? I mean, that's not what I'm saying, but we should say that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Bing,
Okay.
Bing in The Amazing Spider-Man.
And then Bing what we're about to say.
And also start calling Bing, because that's a better name, I think.
True. But while you're Binging this, that sounds weird.
Yeah.
I probably should not have said it that way,
I
but
mean,
whatever. Too late now. I'm not going to edit it out. Everybody knows what happened behind the scenes of Justice League. So the fact that it's even as good as it is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing to me. You know? And I think there's a lot of things in Justice League. I know you haven't seen it, but there's a lot of things in it that I think are good indicators for things to come.
Okay.
Mainly the fact that the actors are really good as the characters they're portraying.
Nice.
So maybe in a better film,
yeah,
you will enjoy this more.
Right, yeah. Well, that was the other thing that I was going to say is that, like, yeah, Justice League gets a pass for me, but also, yeah, Wonder Woman is an indicator of what's to come. So, like, when Aquaman comes out, if that's a total stinker, I'm not going to be as, like, forgiving of it.
Yeah.
But that's something else that I think is good. Like, as I mentioned earlier, that DC has to kind of figure out their own strategy and their own approach to making superhero movies, and I think what they've been talking about recently, how it's not going to be this, like, ongoing story that you have to watch every single DC movie to understand what happens in it. Like, you don't have to see... I could skip over Justice League and see the Aquaman movie next year and I'll be fine, kind of thing. And I think that's not necessarily a bad idea, because if they are... They'll be in the same universe, but they're not reliant upon each other. I think that could be a good thing, because that allows more creative freedom for the people that are making these individual separate movies.
Yeah,
you know?
and also, I hate to sound like I'm totally jaded on all of this stuff, but I think the idea of a cinematic universe is a little bit overrated in terms of not everybody can do it right.
Sure, yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And the idea that they're like, oh, well, you know, that in the Flash movie, it's rumored that Cyborg might show up. Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
and I'm like, why don't they just make a good Flash movie and not the selling point being another character from another movie being in it?
Yeah.
Not to say that if they had an idea for a Flash Cyborg team up movie, I'd watch the hell out of that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's
But like Spider-Man showing up in Captain America: Civil War being the best thing about that movie
But
is maybe
at least
not.
in that movie, it makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
There's like a reason for it.
Yeah, it's
you
not
know?
super just contrived.
Yeah, he doesn't jump out of a computer screen and yell at
That-
Iron Man.
He doesn't jump out of a computer screen that has a web browser that's on Bing.
Yeah, he jumps out of Bing
And
and yells at
it's Binging Spider-Man Bing.
Tony Stark is using Bing, and he's going Spider-Man, and then he just jumps out, and he's like, Peggy Carter's the key! Oh, wait, she's dead.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
But it's still... But go back and watch Peggy Carter, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Or Agent Carter, whatever that was.
I think that time has passed. Although it is on Hulu.
Oh, yeah.
So if you incline to Bing Agent Carter and see if it's up your alley, I guess you can watch that. But
Yeah.
I'm not here to review Agent Carter because I didn't watch it.
Oh, it was fine. Yeah, I watched it. It was fine. It was obviously better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but...
But should we hold it to the standard, just like, is Wonder Woman supposed to be better than Batman and Superman? I would like a good Agent Carter show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it had a couple things going for it. One was that it was so much shorter. Like, that was...
Oh,
like,
thank God.
They were both, I think, because they did, what, two miniseries?
Yeah.
6 episodes each?
I think they were like 13 episodes or something.
Were they that long? I don't think they
so.
were that
Or
long.
10 episodes.
The first one, maybe they were like 8.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they quite made it into double digits.
So by that logic, you like Inhumans better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Thank God it was only 8 episodes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well.
And speaking of fun train wrecks to watch, the Inhumans.
Yeah.
But we're not.
I mean, yeah, that's not the subject, but yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't get through any. I mean, I watched the pilot or the 2-hour premiere or whatever. That was all I could stomach. I was like, nah, I'm gonna pass.
I watched
on this.
episode 1, laughed my ass off,
Yeah.
and I never watched it.
Yeah,
again.
I'll watch a mashup of the Lockjaw scenes later on because really he seems like he was the only thing that they did remotely right.
You'll bing the
entire
Lockjaw
series.
scenes.
Yeah, I'll bing it and I'll bing Google so that I can figure out how to actually find
The
images
Lockjaw
of
scenes.
Yeah,
It seems like a lot of effort to put in for the Inhumans.
yeah.
But I guess Lockjaw's worth it.
Lockjaw's great. Yeah. Any superhero pets, I will check those out. Those are great.
You know what's not great? The status of the DCEU.
I mean, if we're strictly speaking about like stocks and stuff like that, yeah, no, you're definitely right there.
Look, it's not as screwed as, like, say, the Dark Universe.
Yeah.
But there are some things that need to be fixed. So that's getting us into the main topic of this episode, which I guess we've already gotten into it a little bit while we're reviewing these movies. Yeah. But if you...
We weren't reviewing them. These aren't reviews, Andy. Remember, we're simply discussing,
and
not a review.
In our discussions of these films, what are some of... Because there's a lot of things to fix in these movies. But if you had a few key problems that you would fix, what would they be? And besides calling it the DCEU.
Yeah, besides not calling them by what I think are dumb acronyms.
Yes.
Or just kind of annoying abbreviations. Like, it's a DC movie. Just call it a DC movie. You don't need to have a fancy sounding acronym for it. That's a good question. How to fix the DC movies? Well, yeah, I think what we discussed earlier about like leaving Patty Jenkins to just do her job. Like, I think that most movie studios would benefit from that with whatever they're making. But yeah, definitely with these, like hire somebody who has a vision, who has an idea of what they want to do, let them do it, and then give them notes if you need to give them notes. Like, I feel like I'm pretty sure that that's kind of the basic standards that they're working off of anyways. But somehow we end up with all these executives that are like, could there be a dog in it? Like, oh, I've got a nephew that really wants to be a movie star. If you could just put him in the background. Like, don't stop messing with that. Too many cooks in the kitchen, and you'll spoil the stew.
Look, we've seen it too many times. We've seen how The Amazing Spider-Man 2 turned out. We've seen how Fantastic Four turned out. We've seen how Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad have turned out. Yeah. Let these people do their jobs, which is the thing. And the thing about a lot of these movies is they're hiring really good, like, up-and-coming directors. You know, it's not like they're like, and Steven Spielberg will be doing Man of Steel.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
I would love to see that.
That'd be pretty amazing.
Mostly because they couldn't push him around.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh, they got Zemeckis for The Flash, which is rumored.
Yeah, they would have Spielberg for like 5 minutes and then walk.
Yeah. But like when they were saying like, oh, Zemeckis for The Flash, I'm like, oh, that's a guy that won't be pushed around. That's a guy that has enough. And I'm not saying that these I'm not trying to insult the directors of these films.
Oh, yeah,
but
no, not at
they're
all.
not
Yeah.
big enough names.
Yeah,
that
you've
they
got to
can-
have a certain amount of clout, and that
Yeah.
certain amount is a lot.
Yeah, so when I heard Zemeckis might be doing the Flash, or Sam Raimi, I'm like, oh, these are people that already like have long careers.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
they don't
yeah,
need
they're
to take
very
this.
well established in the
Yeah.
industry. It's not. Yeah, they're not even a little bit. It's a lot of it established. Yeah.
Exactly. But they're hiring people for these movies that are extremely talented. And again, we're only like what 5 movies in, and 3 of those movies have been directed by the same guy. So,
Right.
but they're hiring people for these movies that have their own voice, and this is not just true for DC, but for a lot of comic book movies that are coming out right now. They're hiring people that have voices and stories that they want to tell, and then they're hindering them. You know, like David Ayer. You've seen End of Watch.
Oh yeah.
You should have let the guy that made End of Watch make a Suicide Squad movie. You know what I mean?
Would be great.
You shouldn't have just hired a guy, because I feel like they're hiring a lot of these people just so that people on the internet can go like, "Did you know that they have David Ayer? He directed End of Watch." But
right, obviously that kind of has to be a part of it, though. Yeah. That's part of how Hollywood works.
No, I know, but they're hiring these people so they can seem like they're more elevated movies, but then they're just ripping the project away from them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it really doesn't. I mean, you could get Brett Ratner on this thing, and it would probably end up the same because it's just a studio. You know, it's just studio notes like on the screen.
Right. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen the guy that did End of Watch make a Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. But they should let these people do what they want, and also, I feel like they should establish not separate universes, but separate tones for the films they're making. You know, and again, 3 of these are Zack Snyder movies.
Well, yeah, and I think that sounds like that's what they're indicating, is that they are going to make these movies like, well, and that's something that I would say, if you watch, 5 or 10 of these Marvel movies in a row, it's really redundant. Like it's very much. It's not like you'll be like you could walk in on a scene of Ant-Man, and if Ant-Man's not on the screen, you might mistake it for Iron Man, or you might mistake it for, you know what I mean? Like
that's true.
They're very similar in their flavor. I think they're similar enough in their flavor that they're a little bit on the interchangeable side, which lends itself to the overall like them telling one long narrative through all of these movies or whatever.
It's a TV show on the big screen.
Yeah,
and that's what the MCU is. But we were talking about how they were gonna sort of de-emphasize continuity. Great.
Yeah.
Do that. That works much
better.
Let's
see if that works.
I would be fun. It's working great for the X-Men right now. Because you can do Deadpool, and then you can do Logan, and then you can do the New Mutants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 3 vastly different movies, and they don't have to be like, well, in the next X-Men movie, they're going to have a reference to Weapon X, so you really need to have that in here. Like, if each of these movies...
Could you show Wolfsbane in Deadpool in a post-credit scene or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Could we have Channing Tatum show up in Logan just for a bit? Well, just so he has a... like if Channing Tatum as Gambit had showed up as... in like Logan at the bar, and he's like... And he's just talking about his movie or something. That totally takes away from this masterpiece. You know what I mean?
Hey there, old timer. Take a card. A charge card, that is. And then it blows up in Logan's face. It just makes 0 sense. He just walks away.
Gambit coming 2019.
As he walks out, that's like in text on his back.
Well, you know what? They might as well have done that for some of these stupid movies.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the Sinister Six coming 2016. And then, you know what? None of these movies happen because nobody's interested in them, because the movie that's supposed to set these up isn't good, because it's wasting way too much time setting up the movies that aren't even going to happen.
Right, yeah. You got to prioritize.
We saw it with the fucking Mummy. We just saw it with the Mummy, okay? I don't need to see Creature of the Black Lagoon's hand. I don't need to see Henry Jekyll like running around in his weird voice and with his like stupid like.
Oh, you mean Jor-El, Kal-El's father in the Man of Steel movie?
Yes. Whatever. I don't care. I don't need to see Ethan Hunt fight Jor-El.
But how will you know that the creature from the Black Lagoon is coming if they don't smack you in the face with it while you're watching The Mummy?
How about the fact that these movies are being made in an age of the internet, so everybody's Googling them already, so it doesn't matter, because everybody goes on their Twitter account and they go, Javier Bardem has just been cast as the Frankenstein monster, and then everybody goes, oh, they're making a Frankenstein movie.
Yeah.
You don't need to have Frankenstein show up in The Mummy, and by the way, The Mummy is a piece of shit anyway. I'm not saying, like, if it didn't have that scene, it would have been a masterpiece.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just remove all the allusions to stuff that's coming up, and it's a perfect film.
Yeah, exactly. No, that movie's horrible.
Yeah.
But it's just...
I saw that one.
That's the one you chose to see?
Right, it was probably right after I saw Beauty and the Beast. So.
Okay. Did that have an after credit scene where they where they fucking showed the Lion King?
Yeah, obvious. No, I don't think they had anything like that.
Exactly,
No.
they made a movie.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they made a movie that was about one thing and one thing only.
Exactly.
Emma Watson.
And that's why when they say, a lot of people are like, oh, Martin Scorsese's doing a Joker origin movie, but it's not going to have Jared Leto. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what it does sound like? It sounds like a movie that might have a plot to it, that might have a tone of its own. That's a pretty good rhyme. I'm going to come back to that.
Tone of its own? That's the rhyme?
Yeah, look, I'm not Eminem. Okay, that's the best I can do.
Are you not?
But it's a movie that sounds like it'll be something.
Yeah, exactly. It's a movie that sounds like a good movie.
Yes, it sounds.
Yeah, it's not a movie that sounds like a great end cap to the last movie they made.
Exactly, and the fact that like Jared Leto isn't in it. Jared Leto is a good actor, and they probably should have just not had him act like a weirdo.
I mean, yeah, I feel like I would have a similar thing to say about that as I did about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. It's just like he did what they told him to do. He did a great job at doing what they told him to do. It's just that what they told him to do was not the things he should have been doing.
And I don't want to criticize these actors either because they're not standing behind the camera. I mean, obviously they see dailies, but they're not standing behind the camera.
They are at some point probably going to be, vertically positioned behind a camera, like not in front of it at some point.
But they're not sitting in the editing room watching this whole thing come together. And a lot of these movies, you show up and half the set is green screen, and there's Ben Affleck wearing half a suit, and there's just green, sleeves on him and everything, and you look around and you have no context for anything. So when the director says, "Well, I want you to giggle and act like a complete freak," and this isn't even David Ayer's fault either. I think it's a combination of problems, but you get my point. Mm-hmm. There's no context for these actors, so I don't want to blame the actors for a bad performance, especially when it's a movie where half of it is being shot on a computer.
Yeah, believe me, you and I learned a long time ago with Hulk and Incredible Hulk and Daredevil, those movies, that you don't blame the actor just because that's the face that you saw and that's the face that you associate with the movie that you don't like. That's not who you blame. They had like little to nothing to do with what you don't like about the movie.
But that's why when they're like, "Oh, get rid of Jesse Eisenberg, get rid of Jared Leto," I'm like,
that's not the problem.
Yeah, I'm like,
that's the symptom.
How about you get people behind the camera that can make a movie where Jesse Eisenberg isn't flapping his arms all over? You know what I mean? That's why when they're like, "Oh, Miles Teller sucks as Mr. Fantastic," I'm like,
he didn't have to suck as Mr. Fantastic. If he had something to work with, he could have been great.
Exactly.
And that's true of anything any film that they make. Is like if you have something to work with, you have good material. That's great, but you can hire the best actor ever, and they can't like raise a movie from the garbage that's coming out of.
And here's a great. It's not a superhero movie, but it sure as hell was trying to be. The Ghostbusters reboot. I don't blame anybody in that movie.
Sure, yeah.
Because also comedy is one of the hardest things to do. Like you have no context for how people are going to laugh or react to it.
Yeah.
But I don't blame the people in that movie because they were in an unfunny movie. You get my point?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And yes, I get Jared Leto was like went super method for it and everything.
Yeah.
But
good for him.
There should have been somebody on set who was like, Jared, maybe don't start going honka honka for no reason.
You're at a 9. Could I get you at a 7?
Yeah. Maybe we'll just shoot him at the end of the day and he'll be tired.
Right. Like, I have an idea. How about I'm at a 38? He's Joker and he's crazy.
He's a crazy man, and he's talking about handsome honka honkas and blah blah blah, which is an actual line from that movie. But that's just one of the many problems that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
But I think they need to kind of branch out from what they've been doing.
Yeah.
They need to look. That's why. Where the hell is Green Lantern? Where is Green Lantern? He's one of like the best DC characters of all time.
And he's got to be somewhere in Sector 2814, right?
Yes. So. But I didn't see him.
Earth is just a tiny little bit of Sector 2814. It's a big area, okay? He's got a lot on his plate.
But my point is...
Ryan Reynolds needs to be in more DC movies.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But Green Lantern would be a great, breath of fresh air from all these movies.
Totally, yeah.
Because it's like a space adventure, and you could do Lethal
Space
Weapon,
adventure.
but with John Stewart and Hal Jordan.
Yeah,
and it's like it writes itself. It writes itself.
Yeah, it's a buddy cop movie, but in space.
Just do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not hard. I mean, I get filmmaking is hard, but the direction you go in is not hard.
Yeah, it's
self-explanatory.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard for the layman who has not made a movie, but for these people that they're hiring that are, allegedly professionals, they should be able to do it. It shouldn't be that difficult, and it shouldn't be that hard to sell to a studio. It shouldn't be that hard to doctor up a script and have something to work with and everything. It should be pretty doable.
The superhero genre is the most popular genre of film right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to take chances.
Yeah.
It's like it's like if they did, Unforgiven, but with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it's not like all the other Star Wars movies, but it's a Star Wars movie. Of course, you're going to make your money back.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you at least try and do something that's creative and different?
Right, and just to give it a shot, at least as an experiment to see, like, hey, could we do something like this? Will they allow us? Will they give us money for something like this?
And you know what they did when they experimented? They got Deadpool, which made $700 million, even though it was R-rated.
It was a hell of a gamble.
It made more money than any X-Men movie, and it was R-rated. You know why? Because they took a gamble. Not a gambit. A gamble.
They braved that gambit.
Yeah, they took a gamble and they let somebody do what they wanted to do, Yeah. They let James Mangold do what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best. Here's the best example I can give you. The difference between the Wolverine and Logan. Mm-hmm. They're made by the same people. Mm-hmm. They're only a couple years apart, and I'm not saying the Wolverine is a bad movie, but it's a very standard action movie.
Yeah.
It's one of the lesser of the good X-Men movies.
Well,
it's not The Last Stand, it's not Apocalypse, but it's not X2.
It's probably not less than you expect, but it's certainly not more than you expect.
It's like this totally fine action movie that was entertaining in the summer of 2013.
Yeah.
And then you watch these guys come back and they do Logan.
Yeah.
And
it's like way more than you expected.
Yeah, and it's like one of the greatest movies of the decade.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating either. It's one of the greatest movies I've seen this decade.
Is it better than Creed?
It's on the same level as Creed. The fact that they did a movie that was on the same level as Creed. No,
Is it better than the band Creed? Never mind.
You'd have to give me. I'd have to listen to their album.
You'd have to know what Creed is. Okay, yeah. Sorry, dated.
But my point is, they're letting these people do movies that they want to make. And I go back to this a lot. But the New Mutants is a horror movie. Mm-hmm. There is nobody in the studio that was like, we should do a horror X-Men movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is like a product of the filmmaker's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Let these people do what they want.
I mean, it may be a product of It was hugely successful also, but
this was pitched way before It.
That's true,
though,
yeah.
But they're letting these people do what they want to do, and then also when I was talking about like separating the tones and stuff, like let these characters exist in the world that they're supposed to exist in. I think DC in particular kind of has the edge over Marvel, even though Marvel has it has like vampires and it has giant-sized man things, and it has soldiers, and it has.
Talking about honka.
This episode's over. I'm deleting this episode.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done here. There will be no Pop Talks episode. But DC, these characters are entirely independent of each other, and they work entirely independent of each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally fine to have a Flash movie that does not reference anything else in the DC universe.
Yeah, I'd prefer it.
Take advantage of that. Let Ezra Miller, really shine as the Flash, because he was great in Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the goodwill I have towards Justice League is the fact that they fixed Superman.
Mm.
But just...
Like he's neutered, like he can't reproduce anymore. He's been fixed like a dog.
Well, they do want him to be the last Kryptonian.
That's fair.
That is a mandate.
Yeah,
but they finally got Superman right. So that's, again, an indicator of what's coming in the future.
Yeah.
But there's a rumor that Matthew Vaughn is going to do Man of Steel too. And he said, if I was going to do it, I would make a classic Superman movie. And it doesn't have to have the John Williams score, and it doesn't have to have, Good Evening, Miss Lane or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it would be a movie that felt like a Superman movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, do that. You know why?
Really.
There's
a thought.
Because you're also going to be making a Batman movie that's probably going to be dark, that's probably going to take place in a lot of alleyways, it's probably going to be shot mostly at night.
Yeah.
That's your fix for that. Mm-hmm. You don't need to do Superman as Batman.
Right, yeah, exactly. And that's totally, that was one of the things that was probably hindering Man of Steel. It's like, all right, we did great with this Batman movie series, and they're pretty dark. Let's see what more dark things we can do. And they don't pick a character that's dark. They just take a character and make him dark. That's not as good. Like, that's just... You're trying to...
You're hindering yourself.
Yeah, you're trying to reinvent the wheel.
And I know I'm saying experiment and everything, but you have to experiment with the character that's proper for whatever genre you're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So speaking of things to come, what are you most excited for, and what would you like to see them do? If you could choose any movie that you, well, obviously we know the movies that are coming out. There's like a billion of them that they just announced. But if you could also choose movies that you would want to see that you think would really,
like they haven't already said they're going to do or something, or
I mean that's true. You could do that, but also
I heard that they were going to do Blue Beetle Booster Gold. Is that a thing? Still?
That was a long time ago, and we haven't heard anything about it lately. But you can go ahead with it because we haven't heard it.
I mean, that's something that I would like to see. That'd be great.
Yes,
I think it'd be awesome. Those are two relatively unknown characters. They're hugely underrated, I think. And I mean, well, maybe not hugely underrated. They're not like these amazing characters, but I enjoy them. I think they're great.
Fun.
Yeah, and I think they'd have plenty of room for like lightheartedness with Skeets. Like Skeets can bring the comedy like no other droid can. I mean, no other droid can bring the comedy like Skeets can.
Are there any movies that they've announced that you're excited for?
I mean, you know me. Anybody that comes into the shop knows that I don't like rush out to see these movies. I'm excited for them. It's not for lack of enthusiasm. Well, it's not for lack of enthusiasm or
interest.
Are there
any that you're interested in that you think that sounds good?
I'm gonna see them all. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm down. I like the Flash. I'd like to see a Flash movie. I like Aquaman, and this is such a different. Jason Momoa Aquaman seems so drastically different from most interpretations of the character. I'll be very interested to see what they do with him. And unfortunately, one of the hard parts with characters like Aquaman is that they don't really like exist in a world that looks much like ours. Like the setting is very foreign and unusual and like alien, without being alien. So so that's going to be one of the hard things, is like to put it in a context that is relatable enough that people can be like, oh, I get it. Like I've had something like that happen to me, or whatever.
Exactly.
Like that's one of the great strengths of Marvel, is that so many of their characters are kind of an everyman. Like they you can relate to them pretty directly. But yeah, with somebody like Aquaman, like I've never been a king. I've never lived at the bottom of the ocean. Stuff like that. So I'm intrigued by that. Yeah, I think that'll be cool.
I think if I had to choose some just that interested me, I think obviously the Martin Scorsese Joker movie.
Yeah.
Just because that sounds so completely different, and it also sounds like something that what I like is that nobody was asking for it, but not in like a bad way.
Right.
Like it's not like when you hear nobody's asking for Fantastic Four 2, but that's because nobody wants Fantastic Four 2. This sounds like something that was created like. Martin Scorsese doesn't have to do a Joker movie.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
What I like is that
they didn't sign him for 7 movies, and this is the one that he came up with that he likes.
Yeah, what I like is that it sounds like he has an idea, and I know he's not directing it. I know Todd Phillips is directing it, but when you have Martin Scorsese producing a movie, that's still Martin Scorsese's involvement in a movie.
Yeah.
The fact that he's involved in this, and it just kind of came out of nowhere, and they're not going to use Jared Leto, again, not to attack Jared Leto, but they have their own thing that they want to do, I think sounds friggin' awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah.
I really want to see Shazam just because I'd like to see what. I mean, I know we have Big with Tom Hanks, but that's a hard concept to pull off. To have like this super like buff, good-looking like adult man acting like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are they going to do this without him being either creepy or annoying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be a really fine line for them to walk. I think that Zach Levi is definitely equipped to do that, though, because what I mostly know him from the NBC TV series that he was on, Chuck, for 4 or 5 years or something like that. That's mainly what I don't know if I've seen him in much else. But yeah, I mean that character is very he has a lot of buffoonish moments and stuff like that, and he's also just a man child. Like that's kind of his arc as a character overall in the whole movie, is that he's just kind of he's a bright guy, he's got a good heart, but he's not really doing anything with his life, and being thrown headfirst in this whole like CIA, governmental military kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Things like they all fall on him, and he has to rise to the occasion, and that helps him like with his coming of age kind of storyline.
Yeah.
That's something that I've seen him do, and I'm confident that he's equipped to do that.
Yeah, and I really want to see how they could like pull that off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna go because they all sound good. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Anytime they announce these, they sound good.
Yeah.
They
most of them sound good on paper. It's just a matter of what we end up getting.
Yeah. If I had to choose something that like hadn't been announced, I would probably do. Like obviously I'd love to see Swamp Thing. Obviously I'd love to see like a Teen Titans movie, even though they're doing the show. But like, I'd love to see a Teen Titans movie. I don't really want to just like list things, because everybody goes on the internet and they list what they want to see. but I would just like to see things that are slightly different
Yeah.
than what we've already had.
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
like Wonder
yeah.
Woman was a war movie, and
Mhm.
it took place in World War One.
Yeah.
And that it was like it's different. It
Yeah.
wasn't just villain. I mean, obviously we went over how the villain wasn't very
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
but it was a character movie.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
inspired by the character, and that's why I'm like, oh god, I really hope Ben Affleck stays as Batman because
Yeah.
he really embodies that character
Mhm.
really well, and that's why I was really excited when he was directing and writing the Batman solo movie. Like that
Yeah.
was at my top.
Uh-huh.
But they got Matt Reeves, and damn, those Planet of the Apes movies are
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Cloverfield is great. I don't care what
Mhm.
anybody says. He's a talented guy, and that's definitely at the top of my list.
Yeah.
But God, I hope Ben Affleck stays.
Mm. Yeah.
That's pretty much. I just want creativity. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like, I just want creativity and something that, like, when Guillermo del Toro was going to do a Justice League Dark movie, it's like,
Mm.
hell yes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this sounds like an actual movie.
Yeah, that could have been great.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that Peter Jackson was going to direct it.
Of course you would.
I mean, I would be down for that because, again, Peter Jackson doesn't have to listen to anybody.
Does he just follow people around? Like, does he just follow Guillermo del Toro around and pick up his leftovers or something? Because
Now that I think about it, we saw the last time Peter Jackson took over Guillermo del Toro
Yeah.
project is 9 hours of The Hobbit.
those were insufferable movies.
As long as it's not a trilogy, I guess it's okay.
Well, guess what? You're getting a trilogy.
A Justice League Dark trilogy, but they're like 3 hours long each,
Yeah.
and it's only based on the first New 52 trade paperback.
God.
It's expanded into a trilogy of films
Oh God. Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be a lot.
before you get the extended cuts.
Right. Yeah. Of course, you have to have the extended cuts as well, and then you get a nice fat juicy box set later on. Yeah. I don't know. I guess. Yeah. I feel like I kind of failed the question because I mean I don't sit around and think about this stuff, and I've already established that I don't really get that excited about this stuff. And I guess for me, it's just that I don't get much of a rise out of like a human being wearing a Batman outfit and like running around being Batman. I guess.
Well,
like,
here's the thing. I think we've had this conversation before. I don't automatically, anymore at least, because we're living in a world where the Avengers exist.
Mm.
I don't really get impressed by movies where it's like the comic jumped off the
Yeah,
page and onto
right.
the big screen,
yeah.
because you can do that.
Yeah.
I get much more enthusiastic about films, about comic books films specifically, where it seems like somebody read this comic and they went, this would make a good movie. I want to tell my version of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I feel that's what Christopher Nolan did with Batman. That's what Sam Raimi did with Spider-Man.
Mm.
That's what Richard Donner did with Superman.
Yeah.
If you watch the first Superman the movie, that is not an adaptation of the comics of the time. You know what I mean? That is
Yeah.
Richard Donner's Superman.
Yeah. Totally.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I really, the fact that if you apply that logic to Superman the movie, that movie would have sucked.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If it was like 1978 Superman comics on the big screen, it would have been one of the most embarrassing things on the planet.
Yeah.
Richard Donner took the character and parts of it that appealed to him
Mm.
and created one of the greatest what I think is the greatest superhero movie of all time.
Yeah. And a really great movie. Well, and a great movie first, and that's
Yeah.
I think what sets apart these movies that have come out recently that we like a lot is that they're a good movie. Oh, and also
they
Wolverine's
tell a
in
story.
it.
Yeah,
you
they
know?
tell a story.
Yeah.
It's a story about a father and a daughter,
Mhm.
and a father dealing with, the aging of his father.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a multi-generational story.
Yeah, it's this big like family drama and like a cross country trip kind of, and like stuff. Not that it dwells on
Yeah.
that as much, but yeah, it's like all these really important, thoughtful moments, and then like sometimes he pops his claws and stabs dudes. Like that's
And that's the thing is, it's more interesting when you have a film that is a film that has superheroes in it,
Right,
than
yeah.
rather than just a superhero film, because we can do that now.
Yeah.
It's not.
yeah.
And it-
Well, yeah,
yeah.
exactly, because we needed movies like Ang Lee's Hulk and Nick Cage as Ghost Rider
Yeah.
and Daredevil and stuff like that were pretty goofy and pretty corny and stuff.
Mhm.
We needed those to like kind of lay the groundwork for better stuff to come out, and then better stuff than that to come out.
Exactly.
And now we're kind of where we're at, where like the general audiences, they're all prepared for a superhero movie. Like you don't need to convince them that a man can fly. We can just buy into that now. It's already been established that stuff like this is possible. So now we can actually get down to like telling really good stories that just happen to take place in superhero worlds. So you can get movies, and I've been saying this for a long time. It's like, okay, cool. We've established the whole like good guy faces off with bad guy,
Yeah.
and he wins in the end or whatever. We've done that, and we've done it to death. Now let's do some interesting stories that are just happen to take place in worlds where guys are crawling up walls and blind guys are catching muggers and practicing law.
Exactly.
Whatever.
So more creativity.
Yes, more creativity.
Good.
Break outside the box, guys.
Less creativity. Bad.
Yeah, more the cookie cutter squeezing stuff out of the Play-Doh machine. Not good.
I think we've cracked the code, guys.
Yeah.
Somebody email a link of this podcast to Warner Brothers. Stat.
Yeah, somebody get on your Bing email account. I'm just assuming that they have email. And
go on Bing, look up our podcast, and then send this link to Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
We fixed the DCEU.
And maybe highlight this part of it.
We fixed the DCEU.
Yes. Through teamwork and cooperation.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.